What it do, everybody? Wanted to jump on, make a quick video about the hot topic of discussion this weekend since the Fateless podcast came out on Thursday. This is kind of more of a reaction or response to Ragewood's video. He had a hot take on one of the topics discussed on the podcast, and I just want to kick it off where it started. They had Aaron, the narrative director, as the guest on this week's podcast, and he threw out a little challenge to the community.
This is not for the story that we are currently working on, although I think the story we're currently working on is very, very cool. I want to see how many players can guess who the main bad guy is going to be, who the main antagonist is going to be, because I think you'll be surprised. But
there you have it. He thinks the main villain, antagonist, bad guy, whatever you want to call him, is going to be someone that takes the community by surprise, someone we may not expect, and it's all up in the air. We don't have any inside information, so only the Fateless team knows the story so far. And getting into it, Ragewood had a hot take on this.
The gods themselves are going to be talking to us directly. We are the sort of the scion. Thor will be talking to us. We actually have a presence in the game. And that got me thinking. I think we're the villain. I know it's something that perhaps a lot of people will not expect, and it came from bouncing ideas off.
And there you have it. Ragewood's hot take is that us, the player, is the villain. And he does have some good reasoning backing it up. I don't want to go into too much details because if you haven't seen his video, you should go check it out. I'll have it linked down below. He not only talks about the villain and his thoughts on it, he also talks about his thoughts on the starter champions and more. Also, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check out the podcast episode. There was a ton of good information about the story and creating the IP for Godforge. And I'll also have the podcast episode linked down below as well. To rewind a little bit, you might be thinking, wait, how could the player be the bad guy? What's going on here? One of the other things they touched on during the podcast was that the player will have a part in the story. It's not clear exactly how they'll be involved, but as they said in the podcast episode, I believe one of the examples they gave is when you defeat a bad guy and they're like, you defeated me. They're talking to you, the player. So you are part of the story in that way, that all the gods and myths do interact with you. Personally, I think that's really cool and does make it easier to invest in the story. But that's not really what this episode's about. So getting back to it, Ragewood thinks us, the player, bad guy. While I think he does make a really good case for it, and I think it's a really cool idea, I do like the take. Respectfully, I gotta disagree. I don't think the players will be the bad guy. I'm sure they do have a really cool surprise cooked up for us, and I don't really have a hot take of my own, but I'm not going to leave you without my own kind of guess at this. One of the things I was thinking was Loki, way too obvious of a choice, but maybe there's some trickster gods in other mythologies or other stories that may come up and could be a good prospect. And one of the weird things that happened when I was searching was Prometheus came up as a trickster. And I thought I knew his story pretty well, but I'm not sure exactly how he falls into the trickster category, but I did think it could be an interesting take. He did give man fire, then he did get punished for it, and I don't think anybody would be happy about getting their liver pecked out by an eagle every day. So maybe there's a storyline where Prometheus breaks free or is freed, and he's out to get vengeance. He's mad at the gods for punishing him, mad at mankind for being the reason he's getting punished, and maybe he teams up with some other titans or some other bad guys from mythology, and that's how he plans to get his vengeance. Maybe that's how everyone's on an even playing field, He's upset that the gods had the upper hand against the Titans before, and now he wants everyone on an even playing field so they can just battle it out, and hopefully him and his team of bad guys come out on top. That's probably just my bias towards Greek mythology talking. I gotta admit, that's the mythology I know the most about. I'm not too familiar with a lot of the other mythologies, but definitely interested in learning, and I thought this was still an interesting take and possible cool idea for who the villain could be. That's all I have for this one. Thank you for watching. Make sure you check out Ragewood's video and the Fateless podcast, both linked below, and let me know your thoughts. Have a good one.